How to become the woman who he wants to stay with, who a man wants to stay with. So how to become the woman who a man wants to stay with.
Well, I think first you want to become the woman you want to stay with. Because once that is resolved, most likely you will attract the man that will mirror how beautiful you are. And in that case, everything will be very wonderful. Because if we really want to be really honest with ourselves, we have to understand that everything and everyone that comes in our life is somehow it's a reflection of who we are. So the best way to have someone that comes into our life in whatever shape and form that we love to be with is to have a vibrational offer that is really very self-loving. So
so the message would be for women to first of all love themselves then.
Not only for women, for men
For
too,
men too.
for everybody. So if you love yourself, you will attract most likely individuals that love themselves. And when two people that love each other and love themselves are connected, of course it's going to be an amplification of happiness and joy, because both are focused on the bright side of life. They both see life as a fantastic, wonderful journey, and they don't have the fear is reduced to the minimum, and there is not neediness. So I don't need you to be happy, you don't need me to be happy. So that makes an ideal, probably very much lasting couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we see mostly is that women are very insecure and not confident, and usually come from a place of needing a man to feel better, to feel maybe even more confident.
Yes. And again, that's not just the women, it's humans are like that. Whether you're a man or a woman, obviously there is a lot of work that needs to be done. We are humans, we have to reconnect with our true sense of self, so that we can amplify to reality the best of ourselves, and then the reality will come back with the best of ourselves in a mirror.
And what kind of work do you mean then? What kind of work that we must do as human beings?
The work that each of us needs to do is to use the playground, use the reality wave in front of us as a playground, as an experimental transformational field, and just not be afraid to experiment and live fully and open up ourselves to life as much as we can, and possibly not to be so much concerned about mistakes. We have been indoctrinated to be it's almost like a paranoia, this fear to make mistakes. In reality, mistakes are wonderful friends, and it's if I dare into something and I make a mistake, that mistake it's a friend that is telling me how can I go to the next level. So it's not a mistake. In fact, there is no such a thing as mistakes.
Right.
Of course, when we don't love ourselves, we are afraid to make mistakes because then we are afraid that by making a mistake we are rejected, or we are devaluated, or not respected, or not loved, or not liked. And if somebody doesn't like you because you make a mistake, most likely that's a person you don't want in your life, because he or she too has to work his stuff and allow herself to make her mistakes or his mistakes. So there is nothing wrong in making mistakes. Mistakes are welcome. In fact, I take it as an indication that you are living fully, because if you live your life trying not to make mistakes, you are going to be inside a little bubble and never do basically anything passionately and creatively, and you don't basically dare. You're not daring, and if you don't dare, magic cannot enter your life. And if you don't dare, certainly the man of your life will not come to you, or the woman of your life will not be able to manifest, because the man or the woman of your life ideally is a very daring person, to the point that she or he dare to be fully with you.
But then we see that a lot of men and women feel unsafe and therefore not dare to jump, not dare to, go fully into a relationship or fully in life.
Yeah. You can choose the safety road, and by doing that you will have to dismiss most of the things that can make out of you an extraordinary being. So if you choose safety, basically what you do, you are constantly concerned about not to take risk and not to dare, because either you're afraid that something can go wrong, or afraid that you can suffer, you're afraid to face your power, your whatever. There are so many different reasons why we choose safety. We are lazy, but laziness hides a fear. It's not, again, there is nothing wrong in choosing to be safe. It's just that and in a way to be safe it's not congruent with the choice you made when you incarnate. The soul at the moment of incarnation didn't say, I'm going to incarnate in this physical experience and I'm going to be safe all the time. He actually did say the opposite. I'm going to incarnate into the physical experience and I'm going to do it all, to play the whole game and take chances and risk and stumble and then stand up again and then stumble again and then stand up again. I'm going to really, I want to get to the end of this brief physical journey at the level of awareness that is much, much bigger than when I enter. The safety road will inevitably make you choose ordinary path, ordinary journeys, ordinary situations. So you will basically have quite a stagnant life, and you will settle down with whatever is most create most for you a comfort zone, and that will not allow you to really have an expansive life where you evolve. Most likely 30 years later you will more or less hold the same parameters, all the same conversation, the same concern, the same argument, because basically by choosing to be in the safety zone, you basically are doing as much as possible to stay in the sameness. Because by staying in the sameness, you are not taking any chance to experience. And so in that way you protect yourself. However, that protection has quite a high price to pay, because it's going to be a really boring life. And also, yeah.
But don't you think that protection can be also valuable? Because when I see, for example, when a child is born, as a baby, it is protected by the mother, father. It has a safe environment where it can grow up. But a lot of people are traumatized, and therefore they experience this lack of safety that they perhaps never had in their life, or maybe as a baby. I don't know what happened, but I wonder if maybe it's even good to at some point find that safety that they always missed in their life, and from there they can slowly grow and expand their journey further. Don't you think that's a general basic for everyone when you come into this life as a baby?
Well, then I would have to ask you, what is the need to be safe? What is the idea of being safe coming from? What are we trying to be safe from? What is this?
I guess it's the feeling of being loved when you are enter in as a baby with your parents.
Abandonment? Abandonment?
Well, that's when you're not loved, right? Then you feel abandoned.
I think the fear and the need of safety often come from the concern about safety of the parents. Because the child between 0 and 3 years old maybe, or 5 years old, use the vibrational offer of his parents or her parents as a monitor, as a way to monitor what is good and what is not good, what is right and what is wrong. So let's say that the child fall on the ground. Usually before he decide, in that instant, before he or she decide that that was bad or good, the first thing that she or he does is look at his parents. Then the way how the parents respond to that episode will make him decide what to do. Because the parents has his referral. So if the parent goes, oh, then he get that that's really bad what just happened, and he get the fear and he start to cry and all the drama, and that's what happened. But if the parent just smile and say, "Oh, you fault, okay," and don't make a big deal, unless of course the child really hurt himself. But if it's just a common falling, which we all experience when we're a little child, particularly when we are in the process of learning how to walk, then the child look and the parents smile, then he most likely just smile too and stand up and just keep going, right? So I have the feeling that most of our safety concerns are first of all induced by how the amount of safety concern that the parents and the environment has. So a child that has two very positive and fearless and no drama parents most likely will have less safety concern than those parents that are constantly in contraction and constantly afraid that things can go wrong. Don't do that, be careful this, oh my god, what did you just, oh okay, careful, don't cross the street, and that's a fear that convey, then they lay down the ground, and for later when he's an adult to have the same concerns and probably more.
And what about when baby doesn't feel loved by his parents? Don't you think that also creates a lack of safety for the child?
Yeah, more than lack of safety, it makes, is probably it will lead to a lack of self-love, it probably is. At the soul level, every child is perfectly equipped to face the situation that at the soul level he or she has chosen. So if the child has chosen an unloving pair of parents, there are probably very powerful reasons that we cannot comprehend, because at this moment we have a very limited view of the extensive journey of the soul, and is limited to the moment of the birth into this physicality. In order to really make a perfect assessment, we should know the whole trip of the soul. Then it will make sense probably why that soul has chosen to incarnate with two parents that are not loving. Because I don't think there are mistakes. So, but okay, so let's address the situation from the point of view that, okay, let's say that this little child has unloving parents,
has been maybe sexually abused, let's say.
Yeah, whatever the parents are projecting on the child are the tools for the child to experience the earthy journey, and to work that experience from that angle in order to address again purposes that he set up before his own incarnation. So from a very broader point of view, everything is always exactly how it's supposed to be. That doesn't justify parents not to be loving with children, but parents that are not loving is because either they had their own parents that they were not loving, or they had some stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of humans decide to have children without considering how much self-love they have gained in their earthly experience. And sometimes they choose to have a child as probably a way to feel better about themselves, less empty, less, so they create life with not with the highest level of responsibility, but because either ways I want to have a child, or
just because everyone has.
Exactly, everyone has child. I have to have child too, or whatever. I feel lonely, or I think ideally a couple, before they choose to create life, they should have gain a certain level of consciousness and self-love and self-responsibility, which will create a ground for the child to be wonderfully supported in a drama-free environment and in a very creative and stimulating situation. But that's one ideal scene. But again, if we go back to the broader spectrum, some souls don't want to incarnate in an ideal scene. They want to incarnate in a more challenging scene, so that they can learn more challenging lessons. Because they have set up an intent of maybe to be supportive of the world at a certain point. And let's say that my intent is to help children that have been grow unlovingly, then it would be very useful for me to enter the world with two very unlovingly parents, so that I can learn what it means to grow up with parents that are unlovingly, and then I can help all the children in the world that have been grown up unlovingly.
Yeah.
Right? And that could be one of the many reasons why things happen. In fact, if we notice, most of the people that have made a big impact in certain challenges are people that have lived fully those specific challenges. And they came out victoriously, and then they were able to support other souls that were passing through the same. To help to be supportive, you have to have the experience. That probably would be the best, to have the experience, the direct experience, and then you probably can support better than anybody else.